So we go through the androgynous phase. The androgynous phase is pre-gender identity. That's when the boy feels himself to be androgynous. The world is just divided between male and female. He begins to see that you have male, you have female. He never noticed this before. Language is coming in during this period of time. His, her, he, she. Language forces a distinction between the genders. Pink, blue, this is all cultural push. But he is typically holding on to the androgynous fantasy. The androgynous fantasy is, I can be both male and female. The world is pushing me out there, but I'm special. That is a natural narcissism, a narcissism appropriate to infancy, not appropriate to adulthood. So he's holding on to that. But the biological is pushing him. He's biologically driven to fulfill his masculine ambition. And at this time, he needs to disidentify from the mother, pull away from her, notice the difference between him and her, and begin to make that identification with the father. And that's the normal process. Now, if the boy has a father who's not interested in him, the father doesn't care about him, the boy is reaching out to dad, wants to make the bonding, but the father is non-receptive, or if the mother is pulling him back and sabotaging his separation individuation, the boy is going to experience a narcissistic hurt, a shame for his masculine strivings. Right there, that's the foundation of homosexuality. A shame for his masculine strivings. Somewhere along the line, he has learned the lesson, you can't be male. You are not invited into the world of men. It's out there, it's beyond your reach. And for the rest of his life, he's going through anticipating shame. And that's what homosexuality is, an anticipation of shame. And he lives in the shame posture. This is something I observed when I started doing this work many, many years ago, before I understood what homosexuality was. The client would walk in a self-protected posture. He was timid, he was shy, he was self-conscious. He'd sit down, he'd talk, I'd have to pull it out of him. He gets up and walks out. A heterosexual guy comes in, plops down, lays it all out. He gets up and walks out. Another homosexually oriented guy comes in, timid, shy. It was that posture that I was observing that I later found out is a shame posture, or an anticipatory shame posture. He feels ill at ease with males. He feels most comfortable with females. Talk about the importance of father salience. It's so important that the boy perceives the father as benevolent, good, loving. I can be safe with him. Also, that the boy perceives the father as strong. So the boy does not need a loving father who is perceived as weak or unmasculine, and perhaps even beaten down by the mother, nor does he need a boy whose father is strong and masculine, but also critical and rejecting. He needs both good and strong. Someone worthy of imitation. Someone worthy that I can disidentify mother and I can lean on this guy. And none of our men, again, an absolute term, none of our men ever perceived their fathers as good and strong, as salient. Talk about the classic triadic relationship, and this is something we see over and over again. They're looking for a gay gene. They're looking for a biological foundation, and yet we see repeated studies showing the classical triadic relationship. That wasn't even started, that was before Irving Bieber. Irving Bieber in the 1960s did a study of over 1,000 homosexual men, and he found this classic triadic relationship. And in the classic triadic relationship, we have the over-involved, emotionally involved, dominant, strong personality of the mother, quiet, withdrawn, non-expressive, and or a hostile father. And we have the temperamentally shy, timid, introverted, artistic, imaginative son. When you look more closely at the classic triadic relationship, we see that between the mother and father there was a poor communication, especially during that gender identity phase. A special relationship between the mother and the son. And you'll hear our clients say, oh, I have a special understanding of my mother. We understand each other so well. We're soulmates. I could read her mind. With the father and the son, it's guarded, ill at ease, antagonistic. And that attitude of guarded, ill at ease, antagonistic is carried over into his relationships with all men. And so paradoxically, the homosexual is both sexually attracted to men, but also afraid of men. I remember Richard Cohen saying to me many years ago, I'm attracted to men I'm afraid of. And that was like, I couldn't understand that, but I checked it out with the guys I work with, and they say that repeatedly. So you can see that the homosexual desire is to conquer the feared masculine, the unavailable masculine. Now, while we put the focus on the father relationship, we have to consider for a moment the role of the mother. How is she as wife to husband? How does she represent to the boy your father? How does she relate to him? Does she relate to him with respect? Does she relate to him in a way that the boy can feel good about his father? How does she relate to the boy as a mother? Does she make him feel good about his masculinity? How does she reflect masculinity toward both the father and to the son? The physical nature of the father-son relationship, and it's so important to understand that the emotional connection between the father and the son is done physically. And a study was showing, many studies show this, that when mothers have to babysit their son, their toddler son, the mothers are watching, only concerned about safety. We hope he doesn't get hurt. When a young father is asked to babysit his son, he plays with the boy. There's that animation, especially during the gender identity phase. The gender identity phase is characterized by the toddler running around. There's a physicality. And there's something about an active little boy running around that stimulates the young father. Before then, he's just a little infant, and you know how fathers are when they have to hold the infant. They feel uncomfortable, the head is flopping, and they just pass it off to the mother. But during this period of time, you know, if you want to call it evolution or God's design, just when the boy needs the father most, the animation, the physicality, the motor activity, the aggressiveness, the recklessness of the little boy stimulates the interest of the young father. And we've all seen this ritual. There's a ritual that happens. We've all seen it, but perhaps we've never understood. We'll see the young father tossing the son up in the air and catching him, tossing him up and catching him. And this is a ritual. It's a bonding ritual. And of course the mother is watching this and she's getting a heart attack because she doesn't understand any of this, you know. But the boy is first frightened. You'll see the boy is frightened. But the father is laughing. And so the boy starts to laugh. And so a very important lesson has been learned that fathers teach sons. Danger is fun. This is a lesson we convey. Mothers do not understand this. But more importantly, another lesson is taught, which is daddy will catch you. You can trust your father. Scary, caught. Scary, caught. He's always there to catch me. I can trust men with my emotional life. That's what the therapist is. The therapist becomes the first male figure that you can trust your vulnerability with. We advise fathers, if you don't hug your sons, some other man will. We talk about a shared delight. A shared delight is an interaction, a visual interaction. And then in the autobiography of Malcolm Muggeridge, he talks about how he and his father would go out to lunch, and the father would see him from across the office, and he saw his father was happy to see him. And there's this communication. My father is happy. He's delighted in seeing me. And that is transformative. All our men did not get that from their father. And homosexual activity is really a desire for that shared delight. But it's become sexualized. Father as mystery. And this is a repeated theme that we see with our clients. My father was a mystery. I never understood him. I never knew what he was feeling. He never disclosed anything, what was going on inside. See, men are mysteries. My mother, on the other hand, I could read her mind. I could manipulate her into getting whatever I wanted. I knew exactly what was going on. In fact, I was too sensitive to my mother. It's interesting that the fathers of the homosexual did not have a good relationship with his father. Not traumatic to the point of creating a homosexual condition, but he didn't have that close connection with his father. He didn't know what to do when the boy moved away from him. He didn't know that I have to grab this boy and pull him in and make that bonding happen. He just surrendered the boy. The latency period, now we're talking about 5 years old to 12 years old, and we see that kind of hostile, fearful relationship with the father gets carried over into poor peer relationships. And so much of our therapeutic hours are spent with our men reliving traumatic, rejecting experiences with their peers. We talk about the kitchen window boy, this boy who is with his mother, with his older sister, with his grandmother, and he's looking out the window. This window is a kind of symbol for the emotional detachment. And he's looking out at the boys playing, and there's that rugged physicality, whether it be baseball or soccer or just rushing around. There's that physical engagement, and he desires to be a part of that, but he feels somehow deficit. He doesn't feel like he's capable of engaging in that. And so the masculine is mysterious and exciting, and women are familiar and smothering and boring.